My name is Victoria Munro. I'm the Executive Director of the Alice Austen House, which is a nationally designated site of LGBTQ history. We are here today joining you live to celebrate the anniversary of the passing of Black lesbian, mother, warrior, poet, just the most extraordinary woman, Audre Lorde. What many people don't know, the Alice Austen House is actually located here on Staten Island. It's one of New York's 23 historic houses. And this hallway that we stand in was built in 1690. Now, we regard the home of Audre Lorde. Audre lived here on Staten Island for 17 years with her partner, Francis Clayton, and raised her children here, Elizabeth and Jonathan. We feel that her home is like a sister site to ours, as it's a designated site of LGBTQ history, all of which our designation, our amendment to our national designation here at the Alice Austen House, and last year's new designation for Audrey's former home on St. Paul's Avenue, which is about 1 mile from here, were achievements of the LGBT Historic Sites project. So we're so thrilled to be doing an Instagram takeover today and sharing with you our exhibition, Powerful and Dangerous, the words and images of Audre Lorde. Come on through to our first gallery. This room here that we present, our first half of our show, really delves into, we're a photographic museum, and we work with the life story of a woman named Alice Austen, who was a lesbian photographer born in 1866, who left us a legacy of over 7,000 photographs of a changing New York City. This room would have been her living room when she lived here at the house. And we currently use it as one of our galleries and education spaces. Here we have one of the most well-known images of Audre. And this exhibition really is taking a look at the way Audre's words are amplified by the medium of photography, and also then celebrating her involvement in independent press, her collaborative work. And this exhibition would not have been made possible without the collaboration of so many of Audre's colleagues and very, very close friends. And I thank them, and I will introduce you to their contributions as we move through the space. This photograph was taken by Robert Alexander as it's a press photographer. And when I first encountered it many years ago, I was totally struck by it and its power to be able to work with our education programs here at the Alice Austen House, talk to young students about messaging, powerful messaging, and how photography can operate. Now, as I looked at it more and more, I discovered that there was various versions of the photograph online. And so I reached out to Robert Alexander, the photographer, and asked him if we could present the series of photographs that he took. He incredibly generously offered his negatives for us to use and print this series. And if Shani wants to follow me, who's very generously filming this today, one of our amazing educators here, we can see that we span the gallery with these different powerful gazes and poses. And this series was taken in 1983. And I want to take a moment, because we had so much collaborative input in the curation of this exhibition, I really wanted to include the words of those that had contributed and helped me. And I'm going to take a moment to read to you what Robert told me. He said, "When I first photographed Audre in 1983 at the Atlantic Center for the Arts in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, I was the arts editor for the daily newspaper in nearby Daytona Beach. Audre was one of the 3 teaching artists in residence at the center, along with composer John Corellano and photographer Jack Mitchell. I took the photographs to accompany a feature article I wrote for the newspaper about the center and its arts programs. When I arrived at the rustic center in the Florida wilderness, Audre was alone in the classroom, between sessions with her resident students. I remember she was very open and friendly, and went along with my requests. Could you take off your glasses? And could you put them back on again? And could you move a little to the left? So that her chalkboard declaration, "Women are powerful and dangerous," would show in the picture. And as we move through into the second room, you will hear time and time again these incredible words from people about Audre's amazing personality, determination, creativity, charisma, all of these amazing things. So the way we set up the second gallery was not a traditional sort of exhibition, but more of a study space. And the intention in this room was to create a space, and this was planned pre-COVID, where you, the public, could come and sit and be with Audre's work, listen to her voice, and spend time actually studying some of the materials that we have here on display. Of course, that didn't work out for us during COVID, so we made a virtual tour of the exhibition, which you can see from our website, which is www.aliceausten.org. But we are now currently open again for booked tours. So if you feel so inspired and are within New York or possible traveling distance of the museum, I encourage you to book a tour, come here. We allow 20 minutes in the space, but we will give you a fully staffed tour. But for now, we get to do our virtual. And I want to start in this room with this item here. So I have been so blessed, Ross and Blanche Wesson Cook, two incredible champions of LGBTQ rights, incredible writers and artists, and they were also Audre's very, very, very close companions and also godparents to her 2 children. They so generously opened up their apartment to me. We sat together, we looked through so many items that they had, including handmade necklaces that Audre had made. But one of the things that is so poignant in this exhibition is this album. And because I wanted people that came and visited the exhibition to be able to hold this and look at all of the photographs, but I needed to preserve the original object, I created a book which is a complete scan of the album exactly as it was when they gave it to us here at the museum for the purposes of this exhibition. And this album was something that Blanche and Claire put together when Audre passed. And to this moment, before the exhibition opened, no one had seen this album aside from Blanche and Claire and Audrey's children. And I'm going to read to you what Blanche and Claire wrote to me, and then I'm going to show you some of the images in this very, very personal photograph album. Soon after Audre Lorde departed this earth, we found comfort and consolation in the creation of an album of our chosen family, featuring some of the happiest shared moments of our lives together. These snapshots illuminate high-spirited, flirty, fun gatherings, birthdays, holidays at Audrey and Francis's Staten Island home, romps in the Hamptons, lesbian and gay demonstrations in New York City and DC, Audrey's alternative cancer treatment in Berlin, our amazing Hawaii eclipse trip, Audrey honored as New York State Poet, the last sad, loving goodbye days on St. Croix. This is the first time that we have shared this album with the exception of our godchildren, Elizabeth Lord Rowlands, MD, and Jonathan Ashley Rowlands. We thank Curator Victoria Munro for her care and appreciation of our photo memories to be included in the Alice Austen House tribute to Audre Lorde. Now, because Shani is filming me and we're keeping our social distance, I want to be able to highlight some of the pages in this beautiful album. Now, exactly how the photographs with the arrangement that is so personal. And we see these beautiful, fun, loving, joyful moments. I'm going to jump to a little bit further on here. Audrey speaking. In 1991 in Hawaii, the year before her passing. And some final days of joy. Thank you, Shannon. I'm going to put that back here. And so my hope is that we've extended this exhibition until March of 2021, that there will be opportunities for you to visit or reach out and contact the Alice Austen House for more information regarding any of the materials that you see in this exhibition. I also should say that this room that we are in right now was Alice's bedroom for the entirety of her years here living in this house, which spanned from when she was a small toddler through to 1945, when she was evicted, sadly, from the home. Her and her partner of 53 years, Gertrude Tate, could not sustain financially living in the house. If we move over here to the fireplace, we have a really beautiful contribution from an amazing photographer and friend of Alice Austen House, Jeb. Jeb's photographs for the past year at the Leslie Lohman Museum in Manhattan, and Jeb has an incredibly long history of activism, is still extremely active today, and part of that activism work has been an incredible photographic career. And this photograph here, I know you'll get a little bit of a reflection on it. This is Audre in her study on Staten Island. And I'm going to read to you what Jeb wrote to accompany this photograph. It was a privilege and a pleasure to visit and photograph Audre in her home on Staten Island in 1981. In Black Woman Writers at Work, Audre wrote, "The question of social protest and art is inseparable for me. Art for art's sake doesn't really exist for me. What I saw was wrong, and I had to speak up." Audre was the embodiment of everything she wrote, but with added portions of humour, flirtiness, and joy. Audre's writings and the way she lived her life continue to inspire me as an artist and an activist. So we are so thankful to work with these incredible women. And if we move over here, we have a poster for a talk, Sister Comrade, which also featured Blanche and Claire, who were the creators of that incredibly wonderful album. And we have print materials, including the issue of 17 magazine, April 1951, where Audre's very first poem was, well, not first poem, but her first published poem came out. And I just think that it's an incredibly special object. It's really something to be able to open up the magazine and actually read the poem there in its original print form. I always think that some of these things become artworks in themselves. We'll move over to these walls, which explore various lesbian feminist prayers and really beautiful editions of essays and writing by Audre and anthologies that she contributed to. And the quote on the wall is from her Black Women's Poetry Seminar in 1984. And it says, "I am committed to poetry, not only as an art, but as a way of life, which it is. Poetry will give you things you want to know. What it will demand from you in exchange is that you do not inquire comfortably." And we had a panel very recently that's available on the Alice Austen YouTube channel, very kindly hosted by the Brooklyn Public Library, New York Public Library, and Queens Public Library, with several of Audre's colleagues and also Audre's daughter Elizabeth. And one of the things that continuously came up was this sense of struggle and how Audre really inspired her students to push themselves so much further. And it's been really truly amazing to extend this show for this long period of time, because what it's actually allowed me to do is to keep making contact with people that Audre touched their lives, their work, and inspired them to become poets and writers and activists. And I wanted to take just a short moment to visit this table here, where you could come and sit and actually listen to a radio interview that Audrey's friend Jennifer Avod, an amazing filmmaker. We also showed one of her films on our front lawn this year. We were able to do an outdoor event. And it's to hear, often many of us, if we haven't seen a documentary on Audre Lorde, we may not have actually heard her voice. And so I'm just going to play you a short piece of this.
Sad like lesbians because I remember what it was like to be alone. And Angelina Wells Grimke, the black lesbian poet, was living in total isolation and died less than 2 miles away from where I grew up. What it would have meant to me as a young black lesbian to have read her work and knew that she existed, and what it would have meant to her to know that I needed her words, but we were lost to each other. Well,
just a tiny snippet of that, and you can visit Jennifer Abbot's website as well, and as I say, please reach out to us for more information on some of these very rare materials. When I called Jennifer and said I wanted to access this recording, I wanted to include it in the show, I also had so wanted to fly Jennifer here to New York to speak to you all when she presented her film, which was not possible due to COVID. She very kindly, she said, would you just like the digital file? I said, what is their actual objects? And she said, yes, I have cassette tapes. And then she found me these the last two cassette tapes, which of course I will be sending back to her for her archives. But we've been so lucky to include them also in the exhibition. Now I'm going to lead you into the study, and I'm holding this book because it just came out actually a couple of months ago, and it's called Audre Lorde, Dream of Europe. And it selects seminars and interviews. And one of the writers who wrote the preface for this is a woman named Dagmar Schultz, who also made an incredible documentary about Audre Lorde's time in Berlin. And this quote that we have from the Black Women's Poetry Seminar actually is taken from this book, and I cannot recommend buying it enough. It's available on Amazon, or hopefully if you have a good local bookstore. So come with me into the study. This is our space where we are with students of all ages. And for this time, I made some of Dagmar Schultz's personal photographs. And I'm just going to take a moment to read what Dagmar wrote to me. And Jenny, if you would like to show the photographs. In 1980, I met Audre Lorde for the first time at the UN World Women's Conference in Copenhagen, in a discussion following her reading. I knew nothing about her then. She told us about the importance of her work as a poet, about racism and the differences among women, about women in Europe, the USA, and South Africa, and stressed the need for a vision of the future to guide our political practice. On that evening, it became clear to me Audre Lorde must come to Germany for German women to hear her voice speaking to white women in an era when the movement had begun to show reactionary tendencies. She would help to pull it out of its provinciality, its over-reliance in its politics on the exclusive experience to invite Audre Lorde to be a guest professor. In the spring of 1984, she agreed to come to Berlin for a semester to teach. And then our final photograph from Dagmar Schultz from the film is called Audre Lorde, The Berlin Years. and that is also available online. And I encourage you to follow Dagmar Schultz on social media as well, because she is very active, and there's been a lot of work in Berlin talking and celebrating Audre Lorde. And this is the other film that we showed, The Edge of Each Other's Battles by Jennifer Audre. And our very final photograph here was taken in Boston in 1990 by an amazing photographer, Jean Weisinger. Jean lives in San Francisco, and she has had a long career, many different people, but in particular she has really followed the work of lesbian women and lesbian activists. And my hope was also that she could potentially travel to the Alice Austen House and celebrate this exhibition with us, which has not been possible. That Jean's work deserves so much more celebration than what is, credited to her, like so many other women photographers. And Shani, if you want to follow me back through, I'll show the other photograph that we have that Jean contributed to this show. But I have spent hours and hours on the phone to Jean, listening to meeting Audre Lorde and being so inspired that she followed her to her various conferences and talks and activations, if you would like. So we're just going to step back through into the entryway to the house, and this is the final photograph here, and this became the poster for The Edge of Each Other's Battles, Jennifer Audre's amazing documentary. So thank you so much for joining me. Intimate taste of the kind of exhibition that we have here that commemorates the work of Audre Lorde. I'm so thrilled that we're able to really focus on her today and remember her today. I so wish that I could have met her during her lifetime. But she has left us just the most incredible archive of not just printed words, but it's lives she's touched and people that she continues to inspire. So thank you, historic sites, all the work that you do to promote sites like ours. I have a straight gay t-shirt on today. But yes, so thank you very much for visiting the Alice Austen House. I don't think your tour would be perhaps quite complete if Shani didn't quickly follow me through two of the rooms, because that would be a little bit unfair. So just to show you very quickly, when you do manage to come to the Alice Austen House, filled with Alice's photographs from her life, which we have very few. As I said, she broke all the rules. And we have also her former dining room, which is now utilised as a space to celebrate the 53-year relationship she had with Gertrude Tate, the exploration of her queer photography and her immigrant photographs, quarantine photographs, and an overarching view of her career and connection to this home as studio. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, be well, be inspired.